how to expand your business opportunities. Teach someone to fish rather than giving them a fish. It goes back to that value that you provide. What I want to talk about is how to expand your business opportunities from a teaching perspective using the information from the regulatory classes that you teach. One of the things that people don't realize is, yes, you can create your own teaching company. You can get $50 a person for a CE class, spend $5 on a book if you actually do an in-person class like I do sometimes these days. A lot of folks, of course, have moved to Zoom. Travis Everett says, I may never teach in person again. But I like the energy of teaching in person. And so what I have found is that by teaching training classes, and more specific and specified learning, you have the ability to increase your income. So if you think about your business and the way you're operating, and you use your pre-license and your post-license as your base income, you have to teach pre-license in order to build your post-licensing following. You teach post-licensing in order to get people in for continuing education. And you guys know the brand loyalty that is established early on. When you're in a pre-license class and you show somebody this is this and that is that, and they go, wow, and you see the light bulb go off, you have a customer for life. It's like every year I've got one friend that is as forgetful as ever, and I call him 4 days before his wedding anniversary so that I can say, I want to be the first to wish you a happy wedding anniversary. I know it's coming up this Saturday. And every year he goes, oh my God, thanks. I totally would have forgotten about it. And he's a customer for life. And it's the same way with pre-licensing students. Everybody following where I'm coming from today? Give me a thumbs up. Good to go. So what I want to talk about this morning is the growth opportunity in training. Because if you look at it, you guys, the training that we do always reverts back to the legal aspects, no matter what we do, whether we're teaching, how to do a buyer consultation. Included in that is the fact that the working with real estate agents disclosure must take place before anything else. You can't even send a client. I asked the question in a training the other day for my agents. I said, how can you send a client listings from the MLS if you haven't received a signed working with real estate agents disclosure? Because in order to find out how much they want to spend, how many bedrooms they need, and where they want to be, you have to have crossed the line of first substantial contact as it's defined by the real estate commission. Everybody following? Makes sense? Yep. So this is where we can build off of our business with information that you already know. Okay, so if you consider your pre-license and your post-licensing to be your base salary, and then your CE can become bonus, if you will, if you teach 3 to 4 training courses a year and by becoming a subject matter expert, as you teach those 4 trainings, guess what you can eventually do? You turn it into a continuing education class, and you get to combine training and CE. That's where the agents follow you. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. In 2020, when we were first dealing with COVID, there were a lot of changes to the way we operated business. Agents had to learn how to do buyer consultation and listing consultations through Zoom. I mean, think about it, folks. 2 years ago, if we'd have told you to meet me on Zoom, you'd have said, what the hell is Zoom? Okay, let's be honest. Now, I was fortunate enough that I had a friend of mine that I had seen it about 6 to 8 months earlier, but I'll be honest, I was not using it. So I had to relearn everything that I did. I literally rewrote all of my continuing education classes between 2020 and 2021 to be presented on Zoom, because now we've had to flip the script. A lot of people used to take their in-person classes and teach them the exact same way on Zoom. And you just can't do that. You have to have the interactive pieces. I've got a little piece that I hit a button on my controls. Those of you that know me, you know that I used to be an announcer for World Championship Wrestling. So I do this thing in class where every time we say something, that
No, I didn't know
somebody,
that.
you didn't know that?
No, I did not.
I
That
moved to
explains so much about you.
I moved to Raleigh in 1989 to work with World Championship Wrestling. I was Ric Flair's personal announcer for him and the Four Horsemen. So I've known Ric Flair for 35 years. And so what we do in the class, I tell that story at the beginning of class. That's kind of my here's who you've got today in front of you. And one of the things we do is anytime anybody hears something that they like, we give them what's called two claps and a Ric Flair, which they go, woo. Okay. So you get that interactivity in person, but you don't get that online in a Zoom format. But what you can see is when they do the two claps and they do this, did you see the hand motion that went with it? That at least allows some interaction on the Zoom screen. Makes sense? So,
Uh-huh.
and one of the things that I learned about Zoom early on is that I could expand the number of people on a single screen from 25 to 49. That was a big add for me because I was teaching classes with 30 to 35 people, and I'd have to have two separate screens so I could see everybody. I've gotten to the point where I've got my big old TV that has all of my students on it, with 49 people, and I limit my classes to 49 people. That allows me to do more classes. A lot of people say, well, I'll just go ahead and do 99. Well, knock yourself out. I don't know how Travis does. He's got 182 people in his current pre-licensing class. Can you imagine 182 people in a room teaching them pre-license? We'd need a bullwhip and a bar stool in order to keep them all away from us at break so we could go to the bathroom, for crying out loud. So the idea here is those little tips and tricks go into the Zoom conversation, and we can then take that information and become a subject matter expert on a particular topic that we can then go out and sell as training. Now, to give you an example, I do this for pretty much all across the Southeast region. When I teach for other Keller Williams offices, they pay for a first class airline ticket if they're more than 200 miles away. They pay for a hotel room for a night. And of course, I've got all of my Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, whatever those are, so that I can build up those points. And then I usually fly either American or Southwest. So I've got my preferred mileage there too. So they pay for my first class ticket to and from. They pay for one night of the hotel. If I'm speaking for one day, I fly in the night before so I don't have to deal with any connection issues. I prefer to teach in the mornings rather than the evenings. So my classes are typically either 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 in some type of an atmosphere like that. So you have the opportunity to do that. Plus, I get paid a base of $1,500 for the full day. And then if I stay the second day is only $1,000. So I can do a 2-day event, make $2,500, and have all of my expenses paid. Make sense? So when you're doing that, how do you get to that level where you do it? If you've ever listened to Brian Buffini speak, years ago, I was a coach for Buffini and Company. I taught 100 Days to Greatness. Donna, I know you remember those days of training for that. And then Peak Performers, and I was a coach for them for a while. So I had 150 clients that I was doing team group coaching at all times. So it gave me some connection. But one of the things that I really took away from there is that in order to make your business big, you have to make your focus small. If you become really good at one topic, and I looked around at the topics of what I was good at, and I bought my thing is investment property. I bought my first investment property when I was 18 years old, 1 month after I graduated from high school. My interest rate was 16.75%, and that was a great deal at that time. And I bought two duplexes for $22,000 a piece, and I qualified for them on a non-qualifying assumable loan because I had $20,000 cash to put into them because I was DJing on weekends while all my friends were blowing their money. So that's how I saved up my money. That portfolio today is over 350 doors with at a total property value of probably around 27 to 30 million dollars, and only 3 million of it is leveraged. So what I've done is I took what I did, I reverse engineered the business plan as to how I got there, and I turned it into a class. So when we talk about it, For example, we talk about the business plan. The business plan is that it's an 11-year business plan, and you buy a property the first, third, fifth, seventh, ninth, and 11th year. Years 1, 3, and 5, you're buying single family or a duplex. And then in the seventh year, because you've set up your QuickBooks and all of your budgeting and you're actually running it like a business, you have the ability in the seventh year to go leverage all three of those properties together in a single commercial loan and leverage them into a much higher value commercial loan, so that if you've got $700,000 worth of property, you can leverage that to a $2.1 million loan. Make sense? So we're teaching them how to do that. We're giving them little tips like, I don't charge security deposits on my rental properties for monthly rentals anymore. Instead of doing that, that would require me to keep an escrow account. How many of you want to keep track of an escrow account with all the rules and regulations of the commission? Have you read the back of the bulletin any lately? Half of them are trust accounts. So to get out of that, we say, look, your rent is $1,200 a month. Your security deposit would be 1 month rent. So instead of charging you a security deposit, we're just going to charge you $1,300 a month for rent. That does two things. Number one, it drives up the other rental value in the area. Number two, I get to keep that money rather than having to account for it and refund. Now, a lot of people say, well, what happens if somebody skips out on the last month rent? Okay, let them skip out on the first or third, or let's suppose they skip out on the 10th of the month and they haven't paid the rent. How long does it take to flip over a property? 5 days? And in this rental market, my vacancy rate is less than 7 days right now in my rentals like this. So yeah, you may lose them, but you got the next person coming in. So this is the type of tips and tricks that we're teaching people that they're not familiar with. So by doing this, of course, if you think about it, there are 1.6 million realtors in the United States as of last month. That was our most recent. We've normally been around 1.2 for the past 15 years, except for the downturn from 2007 to 2011, when we were below 1 million actually for about 6 months. So those are your average numbers based on what the time frame and what the market's doing. But if you look at the numbers, 1.6 million people, of the realtors that have been realtors for a minimum of 5 years, 23% of them own at least one investment property, and 12% of them own 2 or more. So you have a market out there of in excess of 300,000 people that want to learn how to handle investment property. How many of you know a realtor out there that claims to be an investment expert and they have no clue what they're doing? Okay. Yeah, Malia, I know you've had those in your classes. I know that. So this is the idea. When you can go out and teach someone to fish rather than giving them a fish, it goes back to that value that you provide. The valuation as a mentor, as a coach, as an instructor, they all tie in together at the training level and allows you to expand on those different sections. So one of the things that I did with that investing class, we turned it into a CE class. And Malia probably remembers the secrets of residential investing that we did for Superior. I've even updated that class. I've completely redone it and put it in as a new class, and it's been submitted for next July to be a new offering. That's going to be another investing class that's going to be the next level stuff, because a lot of the things that we were teaching in that first class was very basic. This is going to be kind of a graduate level course, if you will, in 4 hours. But I turned it into an 8-hour keynote, so I can be the keynote speaker anywhere in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, or Virginia. And the 8-hour keynote is also good for continuing education credit because the class is approved for all of those states. Make sense? So in other words, expand your thinking. Most people, if you look historically, most people overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years. I think as instructors, if we set ourselves a plan and allow ourselves to grow a little bit at a time. I get up every morning at 4:30 a.m. I know that's weird, but I like to have my alone time before my fiance gets up, before the dogs go crazy and everything goes nuts. So from 4:30 to 5:30, I have my alone time and I'm journaling. I'm just brainstorming ideas. Now, if I would be embarrassed if any of you came to my office at the house, because I have a 16 by 12 room and the wall is full of post-it notes with ideas. And what I do is when I think of something, I write it down, put it on a post-it note, stick it on the wall. And when it's time to write a class, I say, okay, I need to write a 12-minute segment of a class. What do I want to talk about today? And that those post-it notes trigger the memories of what I had thought of in the brainstorming. So I pull 3 or 4 of them together. I build a 15 to 20-minute segment and I create it. By the time you've done that for 20 or 30 days, you've got enough material for a half a dozen CE classes. Because if you build everything in 15 to 25-minute segments, each one of those turns into a 50-minute segment of teaching in a slot for the real estate commission's requirements of the 50 minutes for each 60 minutes of 60-minute hour. So that's kind of the mindset that I've been going through. It's been a major change in the last 2 years. Obviously, with COVID and running my own real estate team, I was only working in real estate 15, 17 hours a week. So I got to the point where I started working on my business rather than working in my business so much. And it's allowed me to be much more productive and much more efficient in a shorter amount of time. So my teaching income, because of that focus, went from about $40,000 to $50,000 in 2019. 2020, it went up to about 65, and last year it was over 100,000 just for the teaching. And you can get into the discussion of, do you want to be an LLC? Do you want to be an S corp? But by creating the LLC or the S corporation, you have the opportunity to now to retire, to put into money for retirement, and you can do an owner 401k that allows you to put 26,500 a year into that, and it operates like a Roth IRA that otherwise you could only put $7,000 in. So understanding the financials, understanding the design and the way to build, it all comes together as one. So with that said, I'll open up for questions here on anything that I've talked about. I'm willing to listen to questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, brainstorming, whatever you got. I will tell you, I love partnering with other agents to create classes. I'm one of those people, if you say, remember that I worked at Disney for a while. So you give me an idea and I can go nuts with it and say, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? You don't want me to actually put the manuscript together, because I'm the guy, I record all of my manuscript in Otter. If you guys aren't familiar with Otter, go to otter.com. But what I do is I create my PowerPoint presentation first when I'm creating, and then I teach it with my microphone. And Otter, what it does is it transcribes everything I say, and that's how I create my book. I hate the instructors, and I'm sorry if any of you do this, but the instructors that just print out the slides and hand them to the student, that is a BS way of doing this. Write the book so that you know what you're talking about, and put a lot more detail in the book than you actually teach in the class, and give them a reason to keep your booklets for a reference. So all right, I'll shut up. I'm done with my editorial portion of the program, so I'm happy to answer any questions or listen to any ideas.
I love this. This was awesome. And I like the one question. How do I get to teach some of your classes? Can I do that?
All of my classes are for sale. The way I do it, it's $500 a year for me to license the class to you. And then I get $7 for each student that takes the class. And if you have to print your own booklets, you get $5 back off of that. So you only pay me $2 per student. So when you send your report to the real estate commission and you get the little printout after you've submitted the everybody, right, I get $2 for every person on that list that you submit to the real estate commission for attending.
And I just go to your webpage and pay you.
Yep, you pay it. Yeah, I just go to PayPal, or you can Venmo me or PayPal it. And if you don't use the printed form of the book, then it's $7, because that covers the cost of me building the program. So it's $500 a year, $7 a student. The $7 includes the booklet if you need it.
Okay.
So, and if you need me to print them, because I can typically print them for you, because I've got a printer that I can call and usually turn around up to 200 copies in a week. So I'm always willing to do that. I've got The Secrets of Residential Investing that we're rewriting, and it should be approved by July. I've got Trends in Real Estate, Con Scams and Hacks, which is all about stealing money through technology in the real estate business. The one thing that I would suggest is that you observe me teaching it so that you can see how it works within the class. One of the things I'm working on right now is getting more interactivity with things. All of my classes include the opportunity for you to do a breakout session, because I think breakout sessions are valuable in Zoom.
Yeah.
So like The Secrets of Residential Investing, we tell you to rank the top 10 passive forms of income by billionaires. So we talk about things like that. We talk a lot about passive income in my classes. One of my most popular training sessions that I do is a 2-hour class called What to Do with Your Check to Be a Millionaire in 10 Years. And it talks about when you get your check from a closing, if it's using the Financial Peace University techniques. You put 25% goes into your tax envelope. That's not your money, that's the government's money, so you can't spend it. Pay yourself at least 1% of profit for fund money. The bottom line is you pay yourself first, then you figure out how much money you have left over to run your business. And when somebody looks at me and says, well, I don't have enough money to run my business, great, go sell another house. That'll fix that. There's nothing in the real estate business that cannot be fixed by selling more houses.
Amen. Amen. I've always told them that.
And then you use your money to invest in passive companies. I got a buddy of mine that I invested with about 25 years ago. I gave him $10,000 to buy a Domino's pizza franchise. And he made the agreement that he would include me as an owner on every Domino's that he ever owned. He now owns 26 Domino's. And so I own 2% of 26 Domino's pizza franchises. I don't do anything with them other than eat pizza. And I don't even like Domino's, to be honest with you. But I get a check on the 15th of July and the 15th of January every year as passive income from that. So let me do a quick exercise. Can we take I know it's almost 8:30, but if you got a couple of minutes, I'd like to do an exercise with you. Pull out a blank sheet of paper and your calculator, or use your phone as your calculator, however you want to do it. I'll show you my favorite exercise to teach passive income. I'll give everybody a second here. Justin, this is going to be a big one for you. You're a young guy. This is a big one for you, okay? So I want you to write down what your total gross income was in the last 12 months or in 2021. It doesn't have to be exact. Just give me a ballpark. If it was 100,000, 150,000, if it was 50,000, go ahead and write that number down. And then using your calculator, divide that number by 50, because most people work 50 weeks a year because they have 2 weeks of vacation. And then take that number and divide it by 40 for 40 hours in a week. Okay. So we've taken our gross income, divided it by 50 weeks, and then divided by 40 hours per week. That number tells you what you made per hour while you were working. And most people are in the real estate business are really proud of this number because it's $50, $60, $70 an hour or more in some cases. Okay, here's the problem. What happens when you go away for the weekend? If you're not working, you're not making that money. You follow me? So let's go back now. Now go to a separate space and write down your gross income again. This time, we're going to divide it by 365 days. And then we're going to divide that number by 24 hours in the day. Now, this number for a lot of people is an aha moment, because that number, ladies and gentlemen, is what you are making while you are sleeping. That is what your passive income is making you. The difference between being rich and wealthy Rich means that you're making a lot of money per hour when you work, and as long as you're working, things are great. Wealthy means that if you didn't work for 6 months, your money is making enough money for you to survive or more, hopefully. Make sense? My personal goal, for example, is to make $200 an hour in passive income. When you see me get to the point where I'm making $2,400 or excuse me, $4,800 a day in passive income, you're going to begin to see photographs of me on Instagram and Facebook with a cigar in one hand and a little drink with an umbrella on a beach in the Caribbean. Okay. That's how you're going to know Brian hit his numbers. Okay. But this is the kind of thing that we as instructors don't teach enough. It's understanding the financials of running a business. We do a great job of teaching people how to be realtors. We do a crappy job of teaching people how to run a business. And the reason we do is because most of us suck at running our own business. I don't mean to be mean. I get criticized for being blunt sometimes. I had an agent in my office. We were talking about making videos for social media. And she looked at me, she said, Brian, I don't like the way I look on video and I don't like the way I sound on video. And I looked at her and said, well, I got some really bad news for you because that's the way you look and that's the way you sound. So get over it. It's what God gave you. Deal with it. Okay. So these are the type of conversations that when you have these conversations with an agent and it becomes more coaching than it does teaching or training. Let's face it, we all know there's a significant difference between teaching, training, and coaching.
Yes.
A coach is not a problem solver. A trainer is a problem solver. A teacher is an answer giver. You ask this, I say that. A trainer is a problem solver. I'm in this situation. A coach is a person that asks enough questions so that the coaching client solves the problem on their own. And that's when we create loyalty. Okay. So the bottom line is this: when you're building and you're thinking about your business plan for the 2022-2023 fiscal year, think about what you're teaching. Think about how you can take the information that you have and the subject matter expertise that you have and become that absolute expert. Write a 2-hour class the first time and practice it and practice it and practice it. As you do that, classes are always going to get longer because we are all talkers. We all talk too much. You know, my grandfather used to tell me, you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Take the hint from God. But we all talk a lot. So as we grow our classes and they get longer, the information will expand in the time allotted. If you leave open space in a class, you'll be amazed at how quickly it fills up. Okay. Jack, I see your hand up. Go ahead, buddy.
I've been teaching that in my classes for the last 10 or 15 years. And I thought I was the only one that understood this. I've never heard it from anybody else. When I just came on and you were saying what you were saying, I said, thank you, thank you, thank you. The issue we're going to have to face when I first began to teach, and I was up with the commission and they're going through the teaching stuff. I said, why don't we have classes on how to make a living in it? In so many words, they looked at me like I had spit in their face. They said, that's not our job. And they were really adamant about that. I'm working into every one of my classes. I'm to the point in my life that some things I know you got to do, and if they don't like it, fire me. I don't care. So, and you can even put me on YouTube too, doing that. It's okay. But this is such. We have a 70% dropout rate the first year when they get in. They spend thousands of dollars to get here and thousands of dollars to stay here. It's 90-some% the second year, and the reason being, I got a little seminar, a little webinar doing this. The reason being is for the simple reason nobody ever taught them how to run a business, including the companies they are associated with. They don't work for them; they're associated with. That's a difference. But thank you so much.
We've got a lot of we got a lot of people in this organization. They're either a fantastic instructor and a crappy business person, or they're a fantastic business person and a crappy instructor. And then there are people like me that suck at both of them, but we try to get better all the time. The key is that we can do both of those and kill two birds with one stone in an IDW that teaches you how to actually run a business. Take that information and become a subject matter expert on a particular topic that we can then go out and sell as training. So in other words, expand your thinking. Most people, if you look historically, most people overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years.